Today, I'm going to do a video about a pedal that literally nobody has been asking me about, but I really like it and I think you'll want to learn about it. It's the Boss RV-2 Digital Reverb. Whole lot of reverb in there, 4 tracks actually, starting with that main funky rock style guitar riff on a Strat where I'm using the gated reverb setting. Then for the middle part there with the overdrive, that's a Greer Southland overdrive pedal going into the hall reverb setting on the RV-2, and I'm using my Reverb Jetstream. For the lead, I'm keeping that Greer Southland pedal. I'm back on the Strat, and I'm using the delay setting of the RV-2. I even ran the drums through the RV-2 on the room setting because I wanted them to sound a little bit bigger. So here they are, dry, wet, and then combined together. This pedal really is something else, and it enjoys the distinction of being the first digital compact-sized reverb pedal. The DoD FX45 came out in 1985, around the same time as the Arion SRV1, but those are both bucket brigade reverbs, so not a whole lot of options and flexibility in there. This, which came out in 1987, was the first compact digital pedal that let you choose from the big three: plate, room, hall. Plus, it's got a built-in delay and gated options that we'll talk about in a little bit. It's also really interesting because let's take a look inside. Yeah, it's got a double-decker circuit board arrangement here, and I've only seen this on one other pedal, the MZ2 digital metalizer. And I can't be sure if these are the only two that have that. I'm sure someone out there has a spreadsheet and they can let me know if I'm missing any others. But it's pretty easy to imagine why this needs to be so tightly packed in here. There's a lot of logic for the reverb, which is still being implemented in discrete circuitry at this point. It's not like today where you can grab an off-the-shelf DSP and load it with an algorithm of your choice and you're 95% of the way there. This is essentially an 80s rack reverb unit stripped down and folded up and shoved into a compact pedal. It also just straight up doesn't bother with a battery. You could totally fit a battery in here. It's not an issue of space. I think it might be that all of that circuitry really needs a steady, regulated power source. The manual says it pulls 130 milliamps, which is not an astronomical amount. I think they were just playing it safe here. The controls we get are effect level, and then right next to that, a pre-EQ knob. So this is a tone knob for our signal before it enters the digital side of the pedal and starts reverberating. to that is our time knob, and this is how long we want the reverberations, or delays in the case of mode 5, to hang around. Think of it like we've got this big warehouse and it's full of cardboard boxes. And the higher we turn this knob up, the more boxes we remove from it until we're left with nothing but this big empty space with blank reflective surfaces all around us. And then we've got our modes. Setting 1 is the room reverb, and that's really just there to give a sense of existing in a space. Then we've got our hall reverbs in settings 2 and 3, which give us a little more space. So far, we've been talking about reverb as giving the impression of space. But in actuality, if we were out in the middle of nowhere with literally all the space in the world around us, that wouldn't give us any reverb at all. The sound would go from source to destination, and that's pretty much it. It's the surfaces and objects which provide a room with its reverb characteristics. I watched an interesting, I thought it was interesting, video by Dr. Ed Doring, where he used LabVIEW, a graphical programming environment, to build a reverb using math. That video teaches us, among other things, that reverb is built on delay, specifically lots and lots and lots of delays. And according to this Medium article by Rishikesh Deu on coding a basic reverb algorithm, we need at least 1,000 samples per second for flutter-free reverberation. Basically, for us to interpret it as reverb and not just a whole bunch of delays. And if we were to implement reverb as just that, we'd get an amplitude over time graph like this. This is store brand great value reverb. It also looks like my viewer retention graph if I were to spend too much more time talking about reverb instead of playing the reverb. So I want you to listen to that hall reverb again and listen for how it's not that. Hall and room reverbs are important to us because they tell us about the environment, how high the ceiling is, whether or not it's carpeted, if we're on the same horizontal level as the performer, or if we're elevated. We're kind of like bats in the sense that we can make sense of all of these auditory cues, even if they go right into the subconscious. If you close your eyes and start reading the alphabet and you walk towards a wall, you'll hear a shift in the room noise that stops you from hurting yourself. Hopefully. Is this the part where I say don't try this at home? Don't try this at home. So when I pull up a hall setting, I'm thinking about some of my favorite concert halls where I've seen some of my favorite artists perform. The Bardavon Theater in Poughkeepsie, New York, Count Basie Center in Red Bank, New Jersey, or how about the Egg in Albany, New York? Look at that crazy thing. Those are all designed not only to look good, but to provide an environment that will treat the sound waves with the respect they deserve as they bounce around, making their way to our ears. Moving right along after that, we've got our plate reverb, and I love plate reverb because of the way it reveals itself over time. It starts out kind of bright, and then very quickly those higher frequencies get caught up into the larger waves for the lower frequencies. Mode 5 may not be the fanciest delay you've ever heard, but it's there and it's stereo. What do you do when you want something to sound big and epic, but without it turning into a big rolling snowball of reverb? You combine reverb with a noise gate and you get gated reverb. Big rolling snowball of reverb also being the name of my post-rock ambient EDM band. Catch us at Tubby's on Wednesday night, $5 at the door, and we're selling cassette tapes. Before gated reverb was something that you could fit into a box or a pedal, studio engineers would mic the room and feed that room noise through a compressor to keep the signal mostly flat, then run that through a noise gate so we can pinpoint the exact spot it closes down. And now, when combined with the close-up mic, you get that direct hit followed immediately by a wash of reverb, which gets cut off so the next note or hit can come in clean. You've heard this on Phil Collins' drums on In the Air Tonight when they finally come in. It's all over More Than This by Roxy Music, and you can hear it on a lot of more modern songs as well. M83 definitely uses it on Midnight City, and Churches, with a V, uses it pretty much everywhere. Spotify user Estelle Coswell made a great playlist called An Ode to Gated Reverb that you should really check out. The Boss RV-2 was quite the feat for 1987, though it's certainly been surpassed in pretty much all facets by pretty much anything that's come after it. So if you like the sound of this, the RV6 or anything made in the past 10 years would be a worthwhile upgrade. Though you already know that the RV3 holds a special place in my heart. No time for a second jam today, but I just wanted to remind people that if you're shopping for gear, Zounds is the official music retailer of the show. And if you use my affiliate links, that's a big, big help. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, head over to Middle Age Gear Junkie. I just did a spot on his show where I talked about my 3 favorite Boss pedals. Spoiler alert, the RV3 makes an appearance in there. So go watch that, subscribe to his channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next one.